so much. Please accept our apologies for beginning this public hearing late. We're having some technical difficulties this afternoon. The purpose of this public hearing is for the public to be acquainted with a proposed rural development project Williamsburg County intends to submit an application for, either through a loan or a grant, to the United States Department of Agriculture Rural Development Community Facilities to provide funding for the proposed project. Information will be provided regarding the proposed community facilities project to include waste management improvements. It was written that way, but actually what it is a grant process that we're going through in order to secure funding for new compactors for our recycling sites, and that's what the discussion is about. So, is there anyone here to ask any questions or make any comments as it relates to this public hearing? This public hearing will be open until 6 p.m. when we begin our regularly scheduled county council. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how much that grant is going to be?
Yes. Good question. Yes, ma'am. It's $500,000. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I apologize for not giving you all that. Well, this might be the same one, and we just getting around.
All this. Not they'll make it for us. If I was crying, they'll do it, kicking you then. Oh, you meant that. Yeah, I didn't know. Turn the thing on. We good.
Tell some stuff.
I was a good girl, so I didn't go right.
All right, we have, one person that is signed up for the, public hearing, Ms. Cheryl Lane. Ms. Cheryl, come on forward. Good evening, how you doing? Come on down. No, ma'am. No, ma'am, we're fine. It's up until 6 o'clock, and it's not quite 6, so you may.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm not sure what the ordinance, is proposing, other than what I see here, that, it's gonna be a rural development project where Williamsburg County intends to submit an application for a loan grant through the United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Development Community Facilities for funding for the proposed project. Information will be provided. So have I missed the information?
Yes, ma'am. It's a grant for trash compactors for our recycling sites, to get new trash compactors for the recycling sites.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, probably the statement that I'd like to make is, if in this grant proposal, there is a box that you can check that might address recycling, I would like for you to consider addressing recycling. At our, facility at Mount Vernon, we have a barrel for aluminum cans, but it's my understanding that nobody comes and picks them up, so they just get tossed into the regular, trash stuff. So I would be willing to work with anyone who, is interested on council to look into recycling. The neighboring county, Clarendon County, a lot of people in my area, I can't say why, but several of us go across the county line to put our stuff into recycling, probably illegally. But we go across the line and, use the recycling because that just happens to be something that we're passionate about. And we're trying to save landfill space.
Yes, ma'am.
So if there's a box for recycling. My other statement is, so this waste management is just for household waste,
Yes, ma'am. The compactors are just for household waste. Yes, ma'am.
just for household
Yes,
waste.
ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, thank you all so much. Excuse me. Thank you all so much, and that will conclude our public hearing. This will now call this meeting to order. We're going to ask Councilwoman Hales if she would please lead us with the invocation of the seal.
Thank you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening, thanking and praising you for allowing us to come together one more time to be about the county's business. Lord, we ask for your wisdom and your guidance to lead us as we make decisions this evening. And we also ask that you bless each and every one in attendance. And let us, oh God, not forget about the sick, the shut in, and the bereaved families of this great community and county. And when we leave this place tonight, God, to return to our various destinations, we pray that you would grant us traveling mercy and that we will find everything in order just as we left it. These and all other blessings we ask in your precious name. And let every heart say, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. God bless you. Thank you so much. We need to amend the agenda to include 3 items. First, we need to amend the agenda to include the minutes from June 20th and July 1st. We also need to amend the agenda to have an executive session to discuss an economic development matter and a personnel matter that just that came up shortly after we produced the agenda that was in it. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Are we ready for questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please let the record reflect that the motion has been carried. Thank you all so much. The minutes are in your packets. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from the June 20th and the July 1st meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion to accept the minutes from the June 20th and the July 1st meetings. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Are we ready for questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please let the record reflect that the motion has been carried. All right, ordinances. First reading of ordinance number 2024-09, an ordinance transferring authority and control of the Emergency Preparedness Department for Williamsburg County government to the Office of the Supervisor of Williamsburg County, to further provide for transfer of personnel, equipment, and budget authority with respect to emergency preparedness, which shall be under the direction and control of the Office of the County Supervisor of Williamsburg County, effective January 1, 2025. Before I call for a vote, I want to just, I know I've talked to each one of you all individually about this, but as a reminder, this is an issue that the sheriff and I have been talking about since I've been in office. Emergency preparedness handles all of our FEMA stuff, and one of the issues, whenever we have a natural disaster, and one of the issues that we ran into was that although emergency preparedness was under the sheriff's office, the county supervisor's office has the responsibility of doing all of the paperwork and everything as it relates to any FEMA reimbursements. And so this transfer of authority just makes that a lot cleaner, because now the people who will be in charge of disaster preparedness and emergency preparedness, and who also will have the responsibility of doing those FEMA reimbursements, will now be under, well, effective January 1, 2025, will be under the authority of the county supervisor, which up until about, I think, 5 years ago, that's the way that it had always been in the past. So at this time, I'll open the floor for any discussions that you all may have about this.
I have one question, Mr. Supervisor. In order for, even as it relates to transparency and so forth, the buck is gonna stop with the supervisor's office. What you were saying is, due to the fact that the buck is gonna stop with you, if you're not in control of it, then it'll be a little more difficult to manage. Is that your premise?
Partly. More concerning to me was, and is, any paperwork that has to be applied for through FEMA or any state agency, we have to, in our office, approve that. And I want to make sure that if we're approving that paperwork, that the people that are preparing that paperwork are people that work up under our authority, because we're going to be responsible for it. And again, the Sheriff Gardner and I have met a couple of times and discussed this. In fact, our last meeting was this past Thursday, and he is in agreement with this. We do have, we'll have to have 3 readings, because it was 3 readings that allowed the authority to be transferred from the county supervisor to the sheriff. And so we're going to need 3 readings and a successful passing of the vote from you all in order to give that authority back to the council.
And the supervisor, the sheriff is okay with relinquishing that authority?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I met with him again. He and I, we started having these discussions, I think last summer. And in all fairness to him, I was supposed to make this a part of our budget process. And, you know, we were tied up with other things as it relates to the budget, and I didn't mention it to you all. And so I decided to just wait, let's get the budget out of the way, and then I would just bring it back to you guys and allow you all to deal with it after the budget.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Will that transfer authority result in change in salary?
Not for me, it will not. And I don't believe it will be for the sheriff either, because with the way state law is written, whatever salary that is, that their filing fee is tied to, that's the salary that we have to honor. And so the filing fee for that position was done back in January. And so because that's what was accepted by the state, we'll have to leave that salary in place. So no, ma'am, we won't be able to do anything with that salary. I do understand where you're coming from, because it's reducing work, but we cannot, state law is pretty straightforward about that. Attorney Schuler, you want to comment on that? Since we're delving into the legal matter.
We cannot reduce any elected official's salary once it is set for that term. So the sheriff's term was set for 4 years. The last time the salary was set under that current term, so we could not reduce his salary, because that's what it was underneath that last election cycle. And he's already put his name on the books for a re-election, and that salary has not been proposed to be reduced. During the budget process, it would have to remain the same. And whenever this initial transfer of authority took place, it was emergency management, E911 and animal control. So he's retaining animal control and E911, and emergency management is just going back to the supervisor's office.
This will become effective January?
It will become effective January 1. The transfer will happen, the close of business December 31, 2024, effective January 1.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason why I proposed doing it in January is we're already in the middle of hurricane season, and we don't want to do anything to upset that balance. And so that's why I wanted to wait and do it in January. Anybody with any other questions? right, is there a motion to approve first reading of ordinance number 2024-09?
Motion, Mr. Supervisor.
So we have a motion to approve first reading of ordinance number 2024-09. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, it's been properly seconded. Are we ready for questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please let the record reflect that first reading has passed. Thank you all so much. Second reading, there are no ordinances for second reading. There are no ordinances for second reading. Third reading, there are no ordinances for third reading. There are no ordinances for third reading. All right, we mentioned in the public hearing about the ability to proceed with the grant request from the United States Department of Agriculture and Rural Development Community Facilities to provide funding for waste management improvements for the purpose of trash compactors. That was the purpose of the hearing. The Department of Agriculture requires us to pass this by a vote in order to move forward with this process. Is there a motion to move forward with this process?
Motion to proceed with grant request.
All right, we have a motion to proceed with the grant request. Is there a second?
Second, Miller.
We have a motion and it's been properly seconded. Are we ready for questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please let the record reflect that that motion has been carried and has given us authority to move forward with this grant process. All right. In your packets, there's an addendum from PIVA, who handles retirement. What they have done is they have required all governments, both municipal governments and county governments, to vote on whether or not they want the council members, whether or not the council members themselves want to participate in the state insurance benefits program. And that's what this resolution is tonight. The General Assembly passed this, I think, sometime earlier this year, possibly latter part of last year.
Supervisor, we're doing a resolution to this, to this thing.
Yes, sir. Basically what we're doing is voting on whether or not you all as council members want to participate in the state insurance benefits program. They sent this to everybody.
What would that entail, Mr. Supervisor?
It doesn't. I think some of you all are already on it.
Right.
So basically all you're saying is, yes, we want to participate. That's all. And some of you all are already participating.
So they're asking on a collective group, we see whether we want to do it or not, because before, individually, you just decide whether you want to participate or not.
Right.
Some will and some did, some didn't.
Well, I think what they're doing is, as a body, we will vote on whether or not council wants to do it, but as an individual, you have the right to say either yea or nay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the council, we said, no, we're not going to participate.
It
But me,
actually-
as a member, I can still go and say, oh, about that, I want to participate.
Well, no, I think a council has to vote and say, yes, we as a council want to participate as a council.
Right.
But as an individual, if you say you don't want to participate, you don't have to. But if council says, no, we're not going to participate, then no one on council will be able to participate.
Okay.
Is that correct?
It's just simply that y'all want to vote whether or not you make it available to the other council members
That's
to
correct.
elect to participate in the program.
And again, this was brought up because I spoke with PIVA about it to get a fuller understanding. This was brought up by one of the members of the General Assembly, and they actually voted and passed on it, and passed it And so this went out to all of the councils and all of the municipalities across South Carolina.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, Madam Attorney, what's the significance of doing it by resolution or just individual, let it remain? As an individual, you can go and see whether you want to participate or not.
Provided that y'all vote to make the coverage available for all of the council members, you will then go individually and select the option to enroll in the program, should you wish to do so. It's simply asking you to affirm whether or not you all, as a body, want to make that available for council members to participate in that. And I think the reason why they're doing that is because several counties have elected to change the benefit programs and not participate in the state-offered programs and have gone to other self-insured programs, things of that nature. So I believe that's the reasoning behind it, although that is just speculation on my part. You still individually, that's a decision that you make on your own, but as collectively as a body, this is just simply you have to vote to say whether or not you as a body want it available for you to participate in.
And I think one of the other things that also came up was that there was some language in there about whether or not council members would be considered as employees. And I think that's what the bigger issue was, is the employee versus council member. And so I'm thinking that that's why they're asking council to go ahead and just vote on it. You see what I'm saying? That should be in box number 1. Members of the council will be considered active employees of the employer for the purposes of participation in the state insurance benefits program. Only available if council members are paid and are eligible for participation in the South Carolina retirement system. You all are paid, which makes you all eligible. But for those of y'all who already are participating, it doesn't change anything. It just, as I said earlier, and I think Attorney Schuler mentioned as well, it just says that you all as a council are voting for all of council to be able to participate in the program. Any other questions? Is there a motion to accept the addendum to the employer resolution for participation in the state insurance benefits program regarding county municipality council member coverage? Is there a motion to accept the addendum?
Motion to accept the addendum.
We have a motion to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Are we ready for questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, please let the record reflect that the motion has been carried. All right. Mr. Wallace Evans, the CEO of a Father's Place, South Carolina Center for Fathers and Families, notified the clerk earlier today that he would not be able to be here, would need to be rescheduled. Okay. At our last council meeting, I think it was Councilman Wilson asked for an update from the tax assessor, and so I've asked Ms. Ackerman, the Williamsburg County tax assessor, to please come and give you guys an update from her office. Ms. Ackerman, so good to see you. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, yes. While the clerk is passing these out, I do want to apologize to the members of the public. We've been experiencing some technical difficulties and had to improvise this evening's viewing of this council meeting. We also want to thank Mr. Williams for agreeing to come and assist us as well. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, members of council, county council, Supervisor Washington, clerk of council, Ms. McCleary, Attorney Schuler, and the citizens of Williamsburg County. My name is Paula Ackerman, and I'm currently serving as the Williamsburg County assessor, tax assessor. And I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you this evening and just give an update of where we are. I know I haven't had the privilege to do that before, so thank you for that opportunity. Over the past several years, our office has faced several setbacks, and the first of which, our only field appraiser retired back in 2020, so we were without an active field appraiser, but myself and Ms. Betty Etheridge, my former supervisor, were licensed appraisers, but we didn't have adequate field staff. And then that gave us a backlog on building permits and picking up new construction homes, new construction commercial properties. And I know we had open positions for appraisers, but there was kind of a stall in finding what we needed. Then we had one of our main employees, Ms. Singletary. She went to the Parks and Rec department, and she did all of our keying for our data entry. And she left, and we were left without someone to key in information. Shortly after that, Ms. Etheridge retired, and we didn't have preparation in place to pick up where she left off, so to speak. And due to a shortage in staff, it left us with a very minimal staff right as the tax bills went out. So we were overwhelmed, and if it weren't for the diligent resilience of the employees that remained, we literally were fielding hundreds of phone calls a day and had to call the people back because we just couldn't get there. But I'm very pleased to report that we have made great strides in that. We have been able to get some fabulous staff to come alongside those that were already in our office. They are doing a tremendous job training, and they're doing more of a clerical, but helping us with that. We have partnered with some previous retired appraisers that have come back part-time to come out and help us canvass and get these building permits caught up. They're doing a great job. The caveat there is that they let their license lapse, so they are what we consider data collectors. So the information that they are collecting, I have to value all of it by the sketches and the photographs. We are working very diligently to get all of that bought up. So that's been a tremendous turnaround. And even though they've collected the data, I stay late and get in there and key and do. So we are really knocking that out. And we're making that goal to head towards the bills that will be released in October. So I feel good about that. Our staff has also had, because of cross-training wasn't necessarily the culture in the office, so we had, when Ms. Singletary stepped away from doing all of our data entry, we had to rapidly learn the systems, and so we're putting in place cross-training so that we don't have that problem in the future, so that if someone were to be away, someone else can just step in and help that. We had one mobile home clerk. Now we have cross-trained an additional, which helps us. So when, let's say, if someone were sick, people can still get their moving permits. They don't have to come back the following week. We can assist them in office, whether someone's on a lunch break or someone's out due to illness or vacation. So that's been a big turnaround too. That's been very advantageous because mobile homes is one of the busiest things in our office. Because there's never, we have tax cycles where the bills go out and then we get a flush of citizens, but mobile homes never sleep. They are always happening every single day of the week. So that's been a really huge source of relief in our department. So we continue to be able to maintain removal of water fee in addition on the bills. We have contacted two, not just one, but two commercial appraisers that can help us with some of the very larger projects that we need to value. My expertise is residential. I did 20 years of private residential appraisal work before coming to the county. So those commercial pieces, we want to make sure they're valued properly. So we are reaching out to a couple of appraisers to see which one would suit our needs within the county and be affordable to help us. We have interviewed a licensed appraiser that has indicated they have interest in coming on board. So we'll continue that conversation with that gentleman next week, and hopefully get a commitment from him to come on board and help us. And so that kind of brings us up to where we are currently. I'm very, none of this work could have been accomplished without the diligence of our staff. It was a very difficult transition. None of us expected it to happen when Ms. Etheridge retired, but we stuck with it and decided just to give it a go and see what we could accomplish. And I'm very proud of the efforts, thankful to my staff, several of which are here this evening, glad to have them, and thankful for the supervisor and his support staff for supporting us and giving us guidance when we needed it, and answering questions when we just didn't know exactly what to do. And Attorney Schuler's been very helpful and matters to us as well. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to share the update, and if you have any questions.
I got one question. Other than the appraisal, other than the licensed appraisal, how many people are you short-staffed in your office?
I think our biggest backlog, other than picking out the appraisals, the structures, is our mapping. In a perfect world, if we could ever hire a secondary mapper, it would really help us. I know if any of you have recorded a plat that split a parcel out, we have a pretty big backlog. And what we have to do is we hold those bills until the work is complete, and then we release the bills for them to have to pay. It causes issues with purchases, like if you're purchasing on 1 acre of my 10 acres. But in the defense of the mapper that we have, he's a very hardworking young man. I've never seen him on his phone taking a break. He works start to stop all day long. And he kind of walked into, we had the previous mapper, his name was Derek Coker, he went to the state. When he left, we had a long span of time of where we were able to get Michael Hagwood. So all of that work backed up. And then when we were closed for COVID, it backed up more. And he is just one human. And I'm trying to think of ways to help him be not efficient, he's very efficient in what he's doing, but to kind of bolster him, because he's not the bad guy, he just kind of inherited a big backlog. So ideally that would be helpful to us. We're doing well with the mobile homes. We could definitely use assistance in data entry, but I feel like we're on the uphill and we're going to reach the pinnacle soon, so we will level out, and that will allow us to feed data very effectively. I've got some plans in place to kind of shoot towards some things that will make us more efficient. But certainly the mapping is something we have a backlog in, and the young lady that does our deed transfer, she used to have a helper, and she no longer does, so that takes a little bit of time. But we've been very fortunate with the staff that we have been allowed to hire. They're really helping us.
All right, thank you. Because I know some citizens complaining about they purchased some property over a year ago, and they still haven't gotten the tax and stuff swapped over yet, so that
Okay.
was some of the.
That's an excellent question, sir. I would like to address it. So we tax in arrears, like when you pay your taxes to the IRS, it's always in January, you're paying it for the previous year. So our system reflects what we call arrears. And as we, if you bought or purchased a home in 23, the record gets updated for 24. So when you're looking at the GIS and it doesn't show yet your name, that's because we're taxing in arrears. And all of our documentation is pulling forward the next year. So that is one thing we get a lot of questions on, but it's based on our taxation system. And if there are systems where we can do something to be more effective as far as showing the new owner, we're looking into that. But as far as the taxation process and it showing up on GIS, we roll those things over. So if you bought it in 23, it's going to show up for the 24 bill. And it does confuse a lot of citizens. And if I didn't work in the office, I would have the same question.
Yes. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I just have a couple of questions. Number one, I'm almost certain that you have a easier time evaluating the mobile homes and stuff. What about those estates that are way back in the woods with trees and the fence around it and the gates? How did you go about evaluating those?
Yes, sir. So whenever we arrive at a property and we see a no trespassing sign, we immediately leave the property and try every effort to communicate with them. If it's a building permit, we'll have a phone number on there. We try to get the owner's permission to come on the property, or we'll make an appointment. If there's a gate, we do not proceed past any gates, even if you can just push it open. So we make every effort to contact the citizen. We have, generally, we try to make an appointment. There are times where we have citizens just blatantly tell us to get off their property, they're not going to pay taxes, you're not measuring the home. In that case, we have measured from the air, and I've been 1 foot off, and the gentleman said, "How did you get my measurements?" So, but then he let us come and properly measure. So we do send letters if we can't obtain access. We try to make phone calls if we have a building permit that has a phone number or an email. So we make every effort to contact the homeowner or individual before we proceed on the property.
Thank you. One other question. You say you're doing cross training, and I know that your staff has been very supportive in this. But is there any incentive for them, maybe a little extra pay, or maybe have you, when you talk about data entry, have you looked to maybe another department that may have an employee that's capable of putting those things into place and maybe give them a little extra? Is that available to you?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily have the authority to increase how much pay for the extra tasks. I mean, that would be something that I would have to, because I'm new to this, so I would have to talk to Supervisor Washington. But we haven't yet provided additional pay. It's more inner office things that are kind of in the run of the day, so it would fall under, in my opinion, your typical work task. We're not taking anyone away from what their job is, but they come alongside the other employees to assist. And I will say, we have, and you can ask any of my staff, we work very diligently to create a healthy work-family environment where we do encourage one another. Oftentimes we will, because of a backlog, we will stay after work to work on that because it's quiet and the phones aren't ringing. And we never leave anybody alone. We try to work together. We try to encourage one another. And so, from my personal opinion, I think that no one's running to the clock at 5 o'clock to punch it. And that's a good sign to me because we're being very supportive of one another in our assigned tasks. And so I think that will pay off in the long run as we continue to build those relationships.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you do. We know that you're the first line of defense for our revenue that we receive in this county. And so we do appreciate all that you do and that you're continuing to do for us. My question is along the lines of when we got ready for reassessment in 2020 coming off of COVID, we were kind of behind with that. Where are we in that process?
Right, so that's a great question. And 2015 was actually the first year, and I don't know the number of years, but the first reassessment and multiple reassessment periods where we implemented on time. So it's not unheard of for people, for the assessor to request an extension in the implementation of reassessment. We hope to hit the mark. But I will say that we have over 37,000 parcels, and the Department of Revenue recommends that we have one appraiser for every 5,000 parcels. Most counties have full staffs of appraisers who are able to go out. We're currently working with 2 data collectors and myself, and prayerfully the person that I interviewed. And that's a lot of ground to cover. So when we're looking at reassessment, so 37,000 parcels plus mobile homes, that's an addition. So we are curling towards it with optimism, but in the back of my mind, we're going to do everything we can to meet that. But with what we have today, it's something that we'll have to revisit. This is a good question.
And so that reassessment year, when they have that extension, how does that work? I mean, are we able to control revenues or?
Well, we won't. I don't necessarily think we will. And again, I would have to. This is my first rodeo, so you would have to let me talk to the Department of Revenue on that. But in the reassessment year, increases that we see involve ATI cap releases and a bunch of things. So I would like to do some more research and reach out to the Department of Revenue before I give an answer on that, because I don't want to miss.
And the last thing I have is about, the staff. You mentioned that, you do need more staff. What is it that this council can do to assist you and what are some of the holdups with trying to hire more appraisers?
Well, currently in a market which refinance rates have gone up, so the work has gone down a little bit, but in a traditional market where the interest rates are very low, appraisers are out there making $200,000 a year. So what we can offer is stability, but we can't compete with what they're earning. So that's the drawback of a licensed appraiser. Typically, they're not looking for, unless they need health insurance or maybe they're older and they want to be a part of that, they're not looking to come in. And like I said, I did 20 years of private work, and I was surprised that I said yes when Betty reached out to me. But it's been a good journey and I've enjoyed it. So that is the holdup, a licensed appraiser, and it's not. Becoming an appraiser is not something you can do in 3 weeks. You have to have experience points. It takes sometimes years to get certain licenses. So they're like unicorns. And so prayerfully we'll have an opportunity to find some unicorns and bring them to Williamsburg County. Like I mentioned, the mapping, I don't know that we've never had an extra place in our budget. It might be something that we can revisit in the future to assist us with that. But that's just where we are. I don't think we ever never highlighted the need for a mapper, so I don't think it was ever brought to anyone's attention. And it just might be something to discuss in the future.
But you are formally saying now you need a second guy?
We could use a second member, even if it was somebody who came in part-time, to assist us with this backlog, because, like I said, we have, and he's a fantastic individual. But he's doing all that he can do 8 hours a day, and the splits and combines, and they just keep coming. And at least until even if we did someone contractually, until we can get ahead of it and be on time with these splits and combines, maybe not a permanent position, but someone who can assist us like that would be advantageous.
Again, thank you so much for all that you do.
Yes, sir. And I just, listening to you, first of all, I concur with my colleagues. In my opinion, you run probably the most important department in this county, if not the most one of them. We have to pass a budget each year, and the approval of our budget is largely dependent upon you getting your job done and collecting revenues from the citizens on these taxes.
Yes, sir.
So it's important to me that you get the resources to do what you need to do, so that I, as a county council, don't have to vote to increase the citizens' tax.
Right.
So my question to you is, you said that, how many appraisers do you have currently in your office at this time?
Just me.
Just you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you said the state recommends an appraiser for every 5,000 parcels, correct?
Yes, sir.
There are 37,000 parcels in Williamsburg County. So are we currently actively seeking to hire more appraisals? I mean, are we advertising and looking for appraisals at this time?
Yes, we've had open appraisal positions for, since I've come to be employed with Williamsburg County, which was 2017. And then I believe they added a few dollars to it to kind of make it have more incentive. But most of like Clarendon, Georgetown, I know Clarendon, I can't speak, I've talked to Georgetown, but I think a lot of the counties are looking for people to come to be appraisers, and there's just a shortfall. So we had, when Ms. Edwards was here, we had open positions available. I know we have a slot for one that I'm hoping to fill with the person that I interviewed. I know it's an egregious over ask to say that we can fill one appraiser for every 5,000 parcels. It's just not going to happen. But we're also limited on the number of appraisers that are willing. And I do want to say this, one thing that is available to us is for me to supervise and train into that position. But it takes time, and I have to be willing to put my license on the line to train another individual, which I'm not opposed to. So, but we did have a young lady who has had to move because of personal reasons, but she was on staff. She had taken her appraisal courses. She was literally about to, I was about to sign for her to begin her apprenticeship, and she had to move for the personal reasons. And we desperately miss her because she was phenomenal. So that was kind of a letdown in the recent months. We had gotten to that point where we were ready, and then we lost her. But we're working on identifying individuals that I can train to get their license, and so we're raising them up in-house to do mass appraisal for Williamsburg County. So that is another option. And it's a good option.
Would you say, and I'm asking, I don't know the answer to this because I don't know what the position pays, but is the salary a concern for not being able to get licensed appraisers, or is it just the availability of licensed appraisers, or a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both, but I think the availability is the major issue.
Certainly, I think I'm asking, it would be worth us paying a licensed appraiser. They would pay for themselves in essence, and the funds that they would generate, and the tardiness that we are in having to get extensions and not collecting that money. I think Councilman Wilson asked the question earlier. We don't go back on the years that we missed collecting that money and collect it. We just missed out forever.
Right.
So if we could get some licensed appraisers,
Right.
if we had to pay them, they would pay for themselves in essence and more.
Right.
Is that
and
a fair statement?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I think the bulk of the backlog, and I think when we come we are making beautiful strides in eliminating the backlog. So we'll be up to current, we're striving to be up to current. The bulk of that was the absence of any appraiser besides supervisory appraisers. And at some point I was just like, I'm gonna get out there, you handle everything that needs to be done here, I'm gonna go. So, the bulk of that backlog was when, Billy Stackley retired, and we didn't have anybody, and then I started going out, when I could. So I think we're ellipsing that backlog. And so if we can get, staff that, like if the individual comes on board and I can train someone, we won't come into the scenario where we have a backlog like that again. Because prior to Mr. Stackley's retirement, we did not have a backlog, and it was him and one data collector. So I feel pretty confident that as we overcome where we're at right this second, and move into a staff appraiser and a trainee, I think we can maintain. I don't think the house is on fire. It was, but I think we will put the fire out, and now we're just cleaning up the mess.
Thank you for your answering my questions, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
When you say, training someone, you know, that just kind of lights my eyes up. And so that person coming in at that entry level position, what kind of skills they need to have, in order for you to be able to?
Right. Well, we're a very specialized office, and obviously computer skills, but we do, you know, you have to be savvy with measuring, developing values, depreciations, and things like that. So it really is a very, like, it would be difficult to just kind of take someone from the tech school and start with them and train them. Like, you would need somebody that had a knowledge base. That would be advantageous to us. Someone who had a knowledge base of, not necessarily real estate, because it's not selling a house, but the measuring, the calculations, the depreciations, the different factors. So that would be the type of individual that would have, you know, a good head on their shoulders, obviously, and be committed to. Because it's not, the apprentice process, the apprenticeship process, it takes time. And sometimes people are not willing to invest themselves into it. I cannot have another person, like, show up, try to be an apprentice, and then just go away. Because then I've lost time, we've lost resources trying to educate them. So I really would be looking for somebody who was looking for a career.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else?
Yes, exactly. I did know what everyone has said. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, given your limitations. Let me ask you, if those persons that you hire as part-time appraisers, have any of them committed to a certain time frame where they would be able to, they would have to cease from doing this, or is it open-ended? They'll just work until you need them no more, because as everyone has said, it's very important. You brought it, I think Sam said, the first line of defense, the first line of revenue that comes in the county, it starts with you all. And we need them very much. So I'm just wondering, we need to have somebody on staff as long as possible until you had an opportunity to get some permanent people. Be it not 4 or 5 more, but at least a couple of, so we can stay afloat. Has those persons you've hired on a part-time basis committed to a certain time frame that they'll be able to help?
So their commitment is open-ended, and both are retirees. Both are working on reinstating their appraisal license, because remember, when they retire, they let them lapse, so they are data collecting. But both work well with our team. They were former employees of the assessor's office, so everyone's familiar with them. They know the protocol of the office, and they're doing a great job. So they're here until we are at a point where we can part ways, and you know, as we get caught up and we're on time, even advanced, So they're not giving us a deadline. They're happy to work alongside with us.
Okay, but they're not interested in coming back as employees.
Right now, they don't have license, so it would be, I think they're enjoying their retirement / part-time employment. They give us coverage for the full week. So one works the first portion of the week and the second works the second portion. And so we have access to an appraiser to go out into the field if the citizen has to, if they have a problem with a property, they call and make a report to us. We come and inspect it, and then we adjust it as need be on top of their additional assignments of building permits. So.
Okay, and you see, you made formal requests, someone from the office has made formal requests for additional appraisals sometimes.
Yes, we've had an open appraisal position since I came to work in 2017.
And open appraisal.
Yes. And then I think at some point we were given 2, but I think in the current budget, I would have to review that to see. I know we have 1, so at least.
Okay, I would just like to suggest that we go ahead and maybe request more than 1, because as everyone has stated up here, if you don't have the revenue coming in, you're going to hit some roadblocks. So if it takes more than 1 to get the job done effectively and efficiently, I think you need to maybe consider requesting more than 1.
Okay. And I would, the only other thing that when we have multiple appraisers on the road, we share 2 vehicles. And again, I didn't request anything in the budget. We're just taking what we can get. But in the event that we had several people on the road, we might need just access to another vehicle.
But let me, thank you so much. Anybody with any other questions? I want to clarify one or 2 things. One thing that I do want to clarify, we did have 2 vacant positions for appraisers. Those positions were both vacant when I got here, and we were not receiving any resumes, no interest at all in those positions. I believe because of the salary. All right. So what we did was, one of those positions, we met with I can't remember if it was Paula or if it was the former assessor. And what we did was we took one of those positions and created those 2 part-time appraiser positions, because at that point nothing really was being done. And so we got those 2 appraisers, both of them who were former employees of the county, which added the benefit of them being very familiar with the county. And there was also no training curve, because they already knew the job, because they had already done the job. But as she indicated earlier, Ms. Ackerman is so correct, because they had retired and didn't keep their licenses up, their licenses expired. So one of the things that we did was that there is some membership or something that that she found, and we were able to fund to help those gentlemen be able to go back and get their licenses, so she would not have to approve their work any longer. And so that those classes that they needed, they're now working to get those classes, doing it online in their spare time. Now they're getting paid those, for the 20 hours that they work, but the classes that they need, they're having to go and get those classes on their own. And she's been monitoring that. And I think one of them is just maybe 1 or 2 classes away from getting his certification reinstated. But I wanted to make sure that everybody had the right information. I want to be clear about what happened to those 2 positions, because just because we have a position available doesn't mean we have a body to put in it. And there's some of our positions, and the appraiser is one of them, where that's a specialized position. That person has to have a certain kind of training, specialized training, special certificates. And so you're not gonna just put anybody in there. In my experiences with managing employees, the more certifications and the more training that a person has to have, the more money that you have to pay them. And so I wanted to make sure that I pass that information on, not only just to the members of council, but also to the members of the public as well, because I didn't want anybody to leave this meeting thinking that, you know, we just had these positions and we're just not trying to hire anybody. We wanted people, but I mean, we couldn't get anybody with what we were paying. The other part of that is that as we go up on the appraiser salary, we also will have to go up on the salary of the person who is managing the appraiser, because you can't manage somebody who makes more money than you do. And so you have to take all of that into consideration as well. And so I just wanted, just as a point of clarification, to be sure that we pointed all of those things out to everyone that's here, because I didn't want anybody leaving thinking that this was something that was just really, really easy to do. You know, as I, you know, tell staff all the time, if it were easy, it would have been done already. You know, some of this stuff sounds a lot easier to get done than it actually is. Do we have any more questions for Ms. Ackerman? I know that I told her this was only going to take about 10 minutes, so I'm sorry.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Just for clarity, where are the jobs posted in case of any citizen who wants, know anyone who wants to apply?
They're posted on our website, and we've begun to start posting jobs on the Association of Counties website. And because I used to work for a municipality, I've also talked with them about allowing us to post some of our jobs on the Municipal Association's website as well.
Okay. And also, Mr. Supervisor, you said these part-timers, they are currently in classes to become recertified.
That's correct, yes, sir.
So I still would like to say that they will be certified fully again,
Yes.
and they are retired.
Yes.
Given those two facts, I think it would still be vitally important that we have conversation with them in regard to perhaps, you don't know, but I'm retired too, but of course I'll never go back. But then some of them, they may come back at a reduced rate, and you save money as to hiring a new.
Well, actually, and you're absolutely correct, Mr. Vice Chair. We actually did save money by bringing the two of them back because of their retirement, we didn't have to pay any of the benefits, and so we were able to contract them, and they were both willing to come back and just hit the ground running. And again, there was no learning curve because they already knew the job and they already knew the county. And so that was an advantage for us. And so if we can get those certifications taken care of, that's going to be a tremendous help to the assessor. Right? She won't have to, you know, she'll be able to do a lot less work as it relates to the submission of their finished products.
And will you consider that, Ms. Ackerman, seeing that once they become fully certified, if any of them will be willing to come back maybe as a full-time employee again, and you can handle the part that they reduce pay, of course, they would understand. I guess they would not be expected to get the same thing that they have to get. Anyway.
It's certainly a conversation.
Right, absolutely. All right, anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, Ms. Ackerman, thank you, and thank your staff for all that you all do. You guys do an exceptional job for Williamsburg County. All right. As you all recall earlier, at the beginning of the meeting, we amended the agenda to include an executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session? We have a motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. It's been motioned and properly seconded. Are we ready for questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll be in executive session.